way to make a guy cry on a first date, TJ. Jesus.
People intrinsically, when they feel seen, want to give you more of themselves.
I had great things going on in my life, but I appreciated none of it.
Today we have Chris Schembra, and I'm going to make sure that he gets the opportunity to introduce himself. We've already been jamming a little bit before. I don't know, kind of a green room vibe, but we have a really powerful message for you today. And Chris, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for joining us on Living the Sweet Life is the name of the podcast. So thank you for joining us.
TJ, I'm just so floored by what y'all have been building for so many years and the way that you live your life. I know you're not stranger to going through your own hard times. And so the fact that you've turned your hard times into an attitude of gratitude, a movement, a mission, a podcast, a media empire, and you've invited me to participate in that is just a great honor at a wonderful moment in our kind of history in our chapter. And so it's just great to connect. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And, and kind of a little pre-story before I let you get too far into who you are and the impact you're having too. So I was just years ago kind of going through my own a little bit of imposter syndrome and a little doubt on gratitude and the power it could have. And so I started looking up some people that are already having a pretty profound impact sharing the message of gratitude. And Chris, you were the guy, and it's even phrased as gratitude guru. I saw, and just so you know, like that, what that did for me is it offered like kind of this great mix of affirmation and validation that the world needs more of what we're doing. And so it's good to hear every once in a while, not just all the speaking things that you do, and just the different opportunities you go out and speak. And I'm sure you coach many different leaders and you talk to a lot of different audiences. But every once in a while, just knowing like just another human, my life was greatly impacted by you being you and sharing your message. So I just wanted to start there and not let that go by without starting off with that impact that you've had.
Well, way to make a guy cry on a first date, TJ. Jesus.
Yeah. Well,
I hear you and I receive that. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's a very timely time for us to have this conversation. This movement around gratitude turns 10 next week. And so, just to hear that, I don't know, it just kind of fills my heart with, genuine humility. The road's been tough. And there's been a lot of people that we've looked to for strength and guidance, and just to hear that I've played one small little role in, someone else's journey like that. It's truly it's a humbling feeling. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Always wanted to make sure that people understand the impact they have on my life, and I don't have to wait for desperation or tragedy or triumph or something along those lines. I don't need to wait for those moments to express those things. And truthfully, that came from, like you've already kind of alluded to, some of the harder times. Those things come natural during certain headspaces that we're in. But the goal really, and one of my main missions and purposes, is to make people more present as possible, make them feel more seen in their own eyes as well. Not just seen from other people and valued and, kind of recognized from other people. And I know you talk about this in your work, but if we never really fully see ourselves, we'll never actually fully feel seen.
Of course.
And if we don't show others who we actually are based on who we really are, who we're rooted in, we'll never actually feel seen anyway. And even though that's one of the most core components of what we want to do in our connection, and we talk about building connection, but a connection outwardly can't come without a connection inward. And so before we go too far off into these tangents, I want the audience and these listeners to know, if they don't know you, they need to, and they need to be following what you're doing. You've written a couple books, so tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are, your books, kind of your message, your 747. Like, let's dive into a little bit about who you are, and then we'll kind of weave in some of these messages.
Absolutely. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about that. very long story short, folks that are watching and listening, my name's Chris. I live in New York City. I grew up on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. I'm a college dropout who moved to New York City with no job, no college degree, one suitcase, living on my buddy's couch here in Brooklyn. And against all odds, I came to New York with a dream, and the dream didn't pan out. The first couple months of living in New York City, I realized I probably wasn't going to achieve the things I wanted to achieve. And I was lucky enough to find a mentor who, I was 24 at the time. He was 74 at the time. And we challenged the shit out of each other. And we spent the next 4.5 years doing great things all over the world, in the world of theater, producing plays on Broadway, off Broadway, and touring shows. But then to answer your question, TJ, about who I truly am, I got to go to the year 2015 to give your people a flavor. If you looked at my life at the time, it probably didn't look too dissimilar from all of you watching this podcast right now. I had a good job. I had nice friends. I had a roof over my head. I had people who said nice things about me. The industry respected our work. Life, according to what it looked like on paper, looked great. But one day I woke up in the middle of 2015, as you've probably woken up in your life as well, realizing just because a life looks good on paper doesn't mean it feels good in the heart. And that wake-up moment for me was after I just gotten back to my little 350 square foot studio apartment at the time in the middle of New York City, after really achieving a childhood dream of producing a Broadway play in Rome, Italy, my favorite place on earth. And when I was in Rome producing this Broadway play, I woke up to a massive disconnect in my life. And when I got back home to New York City, I realized this ain't it. Just because life looks good on paper doesn't mean it feels good in the heart. I felt lonely, anxious, overwhelmed, nervous about what tomorrow may bring. I had a complete lack of gratitude for my life situation. And, that's not a good look for me, folks. I have a long history of non-suicidal self-injury, multiple stints in rehab, jail, lifelong depression, still battle with it every day. And so in that moment, in my little studio apartment, I thought, gosh, golly, I got to change things quick. What was it about Italy that woke me up to this different way of living? And so I thought back, what was it? Was it how those Italians honor their 3,000-year history? No. Was it how they walked down the street at sunset on Ponte Umberto? No. Was it how they have a love of art and architecture and language? No. It's quite simply how those Italians eat their food with their friends amongst community. See, folks, there was this one night, right before the play, right before accomplishing my childhood dream, I decided to go out to dinner with a few of my friends that were in town, came in town for the play. And we ate and we drank and we dined and we talked into the wee hours of the morning. It was alive. And I said, upon further reflection, that is what's missing in my life. That feeling of human connection. And so I said, I got to bring that back home to New York City. And I'll make a very long story short. I went to my little stove, my little 2-burner stove in the middle of my studio apartment. I started playing around in my kitchen and I accidentally created a pasta sauce recipe. Now, if you're listening to this podcast just on audio, I'm literally holding up a jar of pasta sauce. Simple red sauce. It was pretty good. So I figured I should feed it to people to see if it's even good or not. And I decided to host a dinner party. And folks, that's where it all began. July 15th, 2015, I invited 15 of my friends that didn't know each other, complete strangers to each other, over to my home for a simple meal. 6:30 p.m. cocktails began. 8 p.m. dinner was served. But at 7:47 p.m., tattoo written on my arm, it's now the name of my cult, we put the pasta in the pot, and we delegated 11 specific tasks to empower the attendees to work together to create the meal. And something about this shared group experience, working together to serve each other, it lowered our guard, it shut off our ego. We sat down for a good meal, had good food, drank great wine. But then I asked a very simple question, and that's when my life changed. At that very first dinner, halfway through dinner, I leaned in and I quietly asked all our folks, if you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to, or that you've never thought to thank, who would that be? And we took turns, popcorn style, going around the table, sharing our answers to this question, sharing great stories. A few people cried. They loved the pasta sauce. And I said, I found what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Haven't stopped since. It's been 9 years, 11 months, and 23 days. And we keep gathering people around this gratitude question, hosting dinner parties, which has led to so much more, but just deeply connected to meaningful moments of human connection, with gratitude being the star in everything we do. And that's been our journey ever since.
Wow. Wow is all I have to say to that. That's incredible. The awareness, the self-awareness, the vulnerability that it takes to still kind of feel like, what am I missing? You know, and so many people listening to this, when they listen to these episodes, they oftentimes, I'm sure you probably hear this too, but they say, I feel like you're talking to me. And the reason why I feel like that's often the case is we aren't trying to talk to everybody. We're trying to talk to each person, but having that person be ready to receive it, ready to be spoken to and not spoken at. We're not here sharing a message that we've perfected, sharing a message that has transformed like caterpillar to butterfly. Your 747 moment was caterpillar to butterfly. You can't go back.
No.
You can't forget that moment. That moment's going to have a lifelong imprint on your heart, on your soul, and what you yearn for, I'm assuming, right? Like you yearn for this. It's not just something that you do. It's actually what you had started that story with, is who you are. And that's the powerful piece, is really kind of reflecting back on who are you? When do you feel like you're the most authentic version of yourself? And how do you create more of those moments, which is what you've done. And so much of it starts with presence. And Chris, I'd be really curious to hear a little bit about your thoughts on this shift, because you hear toxic positivity a lot. You hear how gratitude kind of has this negative connotation of shame and regret. Like, I know I should be grateful, but I'm not. So then they feel worse about themselves and worse about their mindsets. So it's very intentional around not so much positivity, but presence, and not so much hype, but habits.
Ooh. Yes to everything you just said. Holy smokes. There are actually 8 things I want to unpack there.
Yeah.
So, habits, how, okay. So going back to what you said about, I realized what was missing. So I got to realize what was missing and then make that shift. But I also failed to realize what was working well. And to me, that was a lack of gratitude as well. in my own life, I had everything I wanted. Yeah, I was only making $800 a week in theater, but so what? I was chairing these charity galas, raising money for nonprofits. I was producing theater. I was hosting flash mobs in the middle of Times Square. I had great friends. I had great things going on in my life, but I appreciated none of it. And so what was funny is that moment in my little studio apartment, I failed to appreciate what was going well, but I also had the awareness and presence to realize what I was missing. You can have all the friends and do all the things and still yearn for connection, yearn for it.
Yeah.
So it was an and, not an or. What you talked about, hype versus habits, and then overcoming, guilt, shame, regret. It's amazing when, when people, get asked this gratitude question, who have you never thought to thank? It's very natural for people to kind of, it kind of hits them in the chest. They kind of take a seat back at the dinner table and they're like, ooh, who have I never thought to thank? And then the next immediate response is guilt, shame, regret. How have I never thought to thank that person sooner? What is wrong with me that I'm not more grateful? Like, people tell themselves or ask themselves those things around the dinner table. And so then we give them the platform to share a story of gratitude, to talk about that grandmother they wish they thanked, to talk about that bully that beat them up, to talk about their parents or their dog or God or themselves or whoever. And what that does is helps process that negative emotion, guilt, shame, regret. It helps process it. It doesn't replace it to toxic positivity. It just processes the negative. And science is on our side. There's a guy from Eastern Washington University who proved the science of what I just said. It's called grateful processing. When you use gratitude to assign a positive benefit to a negative autobiographical experience or emotion, you reduce the negativity and you turn it into a positive. So gratitude is the tool to process the negative quite well without it being toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is being grateful during the good times. What you and I practice is how to be grateful during the hard times.
Yeah.
It's like healthy positivity. What I love that you talked about is the shift from hype to habit. Just yesterday, I wrote down my 19 laws for living that I've learned over the last 10 years of doing this work. And number 8 on my 19 laws is that I focused on the how, not the what or the why. See, I believe that we've been programmed because of Simon Sinek and a lot of other things to go out and find our why, find our passion, do the thing. And that creates a lot of hype, right? It's exciting on social media. I found my why. Let me spread my why. Let's do that. People forget about the how. They forget about the habits that get you to your why. And so over the last 10 years, using gratitude as the tool, we focused on the how, not the what or the why. We focused on the habits, the systems, the processes, the procedures that we could use to create meaningful moments of human connection anchored in gratitude to help transform other people's lives. And we don't give a crap about the what or the why, just the how. So I thought that was a cool little thing that you were insinuating.
Yeah. Well, and so much of the how, I think sometimes if you're not rooted in a grateful place, again, I have been a people leader for 20 plus years, also had this, I should be more grateful for more things and just all of that shoulds, right? And going on a mission trip and you come back and you realize all the good things that you have, but there's still something lacking. When gratitude's rooted in shame and regret, it feels more like an obligation. But when gratitude's rooted in presence and love and connection, it's actually an opportunity.
Of course.
And it's that healthy shift.
We invented something called the benefit appraisal when we were writing our second book, Gratitude Through Hard Times, Finding Positive Benefits Through Our Darkest Hour, which hit number 1 on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. But this thing, it's called the benefit appraisal. Yeah, we use it as a checklist to put every action of gratitude through this checklist. It's a 3-part checklist. Number 1, the gratitude that you're giving, is it of value to the recipient? Don't give them gratitude in a language that they don't like to receive it. Give it in how they best like to receive. Number 2, oh my gosh. Number 2, does it have value? And then is it of value to them? Oh my gosh, I haven't talked about this in so long. Anyways, number 3 of the benefit appraisal is you have to have genuinely wanted to give it. Right? And I think that's we can talk about love languages in a sec when we're talking about, how to best give gratitude in the language of the recipient.
Yeah.
But gratitude, like true gratitude isn't a place of, it doesn't come from a place of obligatory reciprocity. Like I actually kind of hate the idea that out of some kind of social moral obligation, there are certain types of people we have to go up to and thank them for their service. Statistically speaking, and Sebastian Junger found this in his book called Tribe, statistically speaking, the majority of veterans actually don't want you to say thank you for your service. Because then it makes it some kind of like obligatory, like non-real form of gratitude. What is that? Like, thank people for a very specific thing of how they positively impacted your life. Thank you for holding open the door when I had my hands full. Thank you for helping me buy a home that has big windows that increased the intake of natural light exposure. That's measurable, specific gratitude. But gratitude has to come from a language of truly wanting to give it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much of the giving it without the need for something in return.
Well, sorry. You go.
No. It's just understanding that expressing gratitude in an authentic way already fulfills the physiologic and psychologic and chemical power of what gratitude can do for you. And whenever you do something, you express gratitude. But one of the examples of this is I say, whenever I talk to people about, I appreciate you. Like showing appreciation is one of the ways that I communicate gratitude to certain people for different things. But there's not a natural response. If I say thank you, people say you're welcome. When I say I appreciate you, there's not a natural thanks. There's not a natural I appreciate you too, because it doesn't come from a place, right? So like it really makes them feel seen.
Interesting.
But when you say it not to get anything from it, people intrinsically, when they feel seen, want to give you more of themselves.
Of course, my buddy Matthew Immersion talks about that a lot. He literally says to people, "You matter." His whole thing is the mattering movement, mattering moments, mattering Mondays. You should have him on.
Yeah.
You matter, right? Cool. Thanks, pal. I appreciate you. Oh shit, guys! Hi. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you were saying earlier about we give not to get anything back. First of all, science shows when you give gratitude, it makes you feel better, sleep better. It lowers your cardiovascular stress, your cortisol level, blah, blah, blah. It's proven, folks. When you give gratitude, your life improves. But, or I should say, and you talked about how I've inspired you in this gratitude movement. Well, there are other people that have inspired me on my gratitude movement, and you can trace them back thousands of years. In the year 64 AD, a man named Lucius Annius Seneca wrote a book called On Benefits. And In it, he stated that the greatest plague to Roman society is that we neither know how to give nor receive a benefit. Let's call it gratitude. And of all the vices common in today's society, nothing is more common than ingratitude. He believes that ingratitude, the ungrateful man, is one of the things that contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire. That's my opinion. He was living in the middle of the Roman Empire, so he didn't know that it was about to collapse. But he said that every adultery, thievery, sacrilegious traitor, every immoral behavior is stemmed from the ungrateful man. Well, in the book as well, Lucius Annius Seneca states the bookkeeping of benefits is simple. It's all an expenditure. We gave for the sake of giving, and we expected nothing in return. If nothing was returned, there is no clear loss. If something returned, that is bonus positive gain. That's it. Bookkeeping of benefits is simple. We give without expectation of reciprocity. By the way, Adam Grant even proved in his book, Give and Take, that the most successful people on the planet are givers. Very long story short, he did a study that found takers, if you're someone who just takes, you're going to lose. If you're someone who gives in order to take, you're going to do a little bit better. But if you just give, you're going to win. And Adam Grant proved that in his book, Give and Take.
Yeah, that really powerful, because this is, I also get some pushback every once in a while too of some people, a lot of people that I speak to and people that I coach and people that are listening to these podcasts, they are often givers. And sometimes they feel jaded by the people who don't, one, appreciate it, or the people who take. And so Adam even talks about that in the book, about givers need to set boundaries because takers never will.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I have a little kind of pushback on some of that is maybe not the boundary on how much of yourself you give, but understanding that there is a boundary of how little you have left to give and who you're giving what you're giving to. And so it's like intentional giving is more how I would phrase it.
The who is so important.
Yeah.
So y'all, what I just said of like, takers do horrific, matchers do a little bit better, givers do the best. Well, actually, the results for the givers were split. The givers in Adam Grant's study were the most successful people in the study and accidentally were the least successful people in the study. I imagine there's a lot of people that are listening to this who give to all the wrong people. Those people take advantage of them. And the opportunity never comes back around. When we say give, we want you to give to good people. We want you to give to good causes. But we also, from a professional standpoint, say, give strategically. Right? Give your services maybe to someone who can maybe afford your services instead of giving to people who can never afford your services nor know nobody that they can introduce you to that can afford your services. Right? Be smart about it.
Yeah.
Be a giver, but be smart.
Yeah. And there's so much of the not forgetting yourself in the sense of what you give yourself and the idea that if you want to, this is kind of the how as well. So if you really want to be able to show up in a meaningful way, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, like the desire for that is a good place to start. And maybe like you've talked about, that's the why. But the how do I do this? When I talk to people, they say they don't have extra time. They don't have 30 extra minutes. They don't have all this, when you talk about self-care, they make it feel like they're being selfish. Like this, just all of this stuff that's going on in the world these days of if I take care of myself, it's selfish. It's actually allowing yourself to be at your best for the people that mean the most. And once you kind of shift that narrative around it a little bit more, and it really does then feel empowering. But there's times where it's still hard for people because they are they're spending their time and their resources and their effort on something for themselves, but they don't connect it back to the people that they're the most grateful for.
It can be an and.
Yeah.
You can spend money, time, effort, resources on yourself and have that be a positive benefit to others.